Welcome to the Fantasy Football Now, powered by DSP Media. I am your host, Chad Rink. Follow me on the X at Chad Ocho Rinko. Today is Friday, the 13th of October, which is, as you all know, the spookiest of the Friday the 13th. So I personally am not a big horror fan at all. Never have been. So just I'm fine with it's the Great Pumpkin Charlie Brown and the 80s Garfield cartoon Halloween special. And that's all I need for my Halloween viewing pleasure. So I'm going to come hit you real quick with a DFS show. So those of you that play the daily fantasy, this show is going to be for you. Going to talk about some quarterback streams, stacks that you want to do, and kind of reason why and what you want to look for going forward when you're looking at your stacks, what quarterbacks you should probably target, and hit you with some of my favorite plays, some good values, and just it shouldn't be that long for week 6. So the buys, just the Packers and the Steelers. So when you're looking at doing the daily fantasy, you want to make sure you check out the contest. Make sure that whatever contest you choose, you want to max enter that contest. So there are a host of different max entries. The most popular ones, you're going to have your single entry, which everybody just gets one entry. And then on the other end, you'll have the 150 max entries where you can put in 150 entries. So for those, depending what your bankroll is, you can play those sometimes at $1, which is still pretty expensive. You're talking about $150 for one slate. You can also go down, like they have some penny, dime, quarter ones as well. I personally, with my bankroll right now, even if I didn't, I don't think I have I'd have to put some tools in place to get all the spreadsheets to download and those types of things. So I personally like the single entry. I do like some 3 entry max as well. And I also do like the 20 entry max. You can do those for like a quarter, and it's going to only cost you $5. $1 is only going to cost you 20. I do like doing those for the showdown slates, but I do like doing some of those if there's a couple of the stacks that I really like. And this week might be one of those I do because the player pool that I have for this week is really kind of small, a lot smaller than normal, because my running back pool is really limited to what I'm going to do this week. And there's only a few stacks that I like. So we'll get into that. So what you want to do is, pick your contest, and then you go from there. And you also want to try to be a little bit unique, a little bit different in your builds. It's one of those weeks where you just happen to know, hey, everybody's going to be on the Dolphins stack and that run back, then you got to find, even if it's just one spot of a really low-owned play, making sure it is a good play. You just don't want to throw any low-owned guy in there. Just trying to build that roster, to make it a little bit unique. If there's going to be a really popular stack, or maybe 2 or 3 really, really popular guys, because you just don't want to dupe entries. I had an entry. It was a showdown slate a few years back, Bengals Browns on like a Monday night, and I won. I got like $236 or something like that, but it was a $5,000 to first, and I ended up tying with like 36 other people. So it didn't, I still won, so I was happy, but it just is a little bit different on that. So what you're looking for, I was listening to a podcast today talking about, they kind of look back at the slates that have gone through the first 5 weeks, and really at the quarterback spot, the ones that have been showing up in the winning lineups, which they looked at, like, I think top 10, maybe top 20, are your quarterback. It's going to be, you want one of the favorites. Like, so it sounds weird that you'd want a favorite quarterback, but those seem to be the ones that are making these lineups that are winning the Millie Maker, being in the top 10. So really it's like the away favorite. So a quarterback that's on a favorite team that is away, and then you're looking at home favorites would be next. And there's a couple criteria with that as well. You want a game where the total is 45 or more, and their team total is 24 or more. So those are the criteria you're looking for. You want a higher game total means more points, means more fantasy points. So that's where you're looking at 45 or more team total points on the Vegas line, and then you're looking at their team total, what that team is projected to score. You want that to be 24 or more for that team, what they're projected to score. And then if you're looking at away, you're looking for an away team. That quarterback stacking that team is most ideal so far this year. And then you're looking at it at the home favorite would be next what you're looking at. So if you're looking at this week for the quarterbacks, there are 5 quarterbacks that I like. And there's only one that fits that away favorite. And they don't really fit it quite that way because the game total is a little bit shy of that 45. But we'll talk about that. So we'll go in order of pricing on DraftKings. So the first guy I like is Justin Fields. He has looked good the last couple weeks, putting up some big points. Anytime you can get a rushing quarterback, it's going to be good because he's just going to add that many extra points for you just with his legs. So those guys I try to target if I can, if they fit and they're in a good game script, that kind of thing. So I really look for those guys first. But Fields is 7,300. It's a pretty easy build with, Fields is one of those guys too with these running quarterbacks. You don't even have to stack them. They can sometimes get there just on their own without stacking because they can rush in a couple touchdowns, especially this week with the Bears being down to Deonta Foreman and I think it's Drayton Evans, former Titans running back. So they are very limited on the ground because Roshan and Khalil Herbert and Travis Homer are out for this week. So Fields may have to do a little bit more running. So he looks good. If you are going to stack him, you can single stack him with either Moore or Kmet. Those are the two I would just be looking at and just keeping it those two only. You could do one of those guys, or if you want to double stack with Fields, you can put them both in. So that's one of the stacks I do like because they're at home. They're playing Minnesota. That's the game that it's at 43.5 is the game total for Sunday. However, the Bears have gone over in all 5 games this year. They give up a ton of points. They're playing Minnesota. Minnesota is about average on defense. So I think this game, even though Vegas has it at 43.5, I would not be surprised if this game ends up being closer to 50. So I like Fields. He's at 7,300. He is the most expensive guy that I like if you're going to be stacking or just anything. I think the other guys above him, I think just with the way the games are, either with the team total or how the game could go, like Hurts is 8,200. Jets are pretty good. They're not great against the run, but Hurts is always in play, but he's pretty pricey. And then to stack him with his 2 receivers and even with Goddard, it's going to get pricey. And it's one of those things, if you get a real pricey, the same thing with Tua, who's at 7,600, who's next on here. Any of those stacks that you get that are really, really pricey, usually like the Chief stacks are going to be that way when you have Mahomes and you always want to throw Kelsey in there. It really limits what your build is going to be because if other guys are playing that, then their value plays are probably going to be the same, and they're kind of probably playing the same guys you will be, so it's not going to be that unique. So I don't mind those guys. I think the Eagles can score a ton of points. I think Miami's in a great spot, but I just like Mostert so much better in this game script against Carolina, who's horrible against the run. So I'm just going with Mostert, which if you want to go the passing route with Miami, that's not bad because if you get 30 35-40% of the field on Mostert, it's a nice pivot, because if it ends up being the Miami passing game that puts up all the points, then and Mostert just has like a regular normal game, maybe get you 10, 12 points. That's going to knock out 35-40% of the field right there. So there is that edge you can have with a passing game like that, where everybody else is on the other side, like on the running back. So those are the two guys that are ahead of Fields. Next guy I like is the guy right below Fields, and he's the quarterback opposite of him, is Kirk Cousins. He's the only away favorite of my stacks that I like. Again, the game total is not as high as it should be, but I think it's gonna clear 45 easily. So I like Kirk Cousins. It sounds weird. I think maybe people might be off him for a couple reasons. One, the Bears are horrible against the run, so they may run the ball with Akers and Madison more often than they normally do. And because Jefferson's out, that might be the other thing too. They just run the ball more. I don't think that's going to necessarily be the case. I think the Bears will probably try to play the run and make, KJ Osborne. I think Addison is going to play. He was dinged up, but I think he is looking like, he looks like he doesn't have a Q tag on him anymore. Addison and those guys beat you in the air. So I do like Kirk Cousins. I think they can put up a ton of points. The Bears passing defense is not great either. So I think a lot of people could be off Cousins this week just because Jefferson's not there, and then they don't know who to pair. If you're going to do Cousins, I would like, if with Cousins, I like to do, especially without Jefferson, I would like to pair him with, like, do a double stack with two of his pass catchers. So I would not put any of the running backs in. I think Hawkinson would be the one I really, really like. And then I would just mix in, if you're doing multiple entries, like if you're doing a 3 max entry and you decide, hey, Cousins, the Cousins stacks is what I want to do, go ahead and just do a Cousins. And then I would all three just do like Hawkinson and all three, and then just rotate with KJ Osborne, Jordan Addison. And then I do like Brandon Powell as well, because he's very, very cheap. So that's what you could do with the Vikings side of that. Next one, I do like Trevor Lawrence a little bit. They're at home against Indy. That game is projected it's at 44.5, so it's right at that line. Jags are home. They're favored by 4, and then their team total is just over 24. So they fit the bill. The only issue with the Jags is the way they've been using the money machine, the ETN, Travis Etienne. They just been riding him, and he has been looking great. So they could just run him all over the Colts secondary, everything, and they would just then Lawrence isn't going to do much if Etienne is the main guy. So I do like that. Pair him with Calvin Ridley. He'd be the one guy who would do it. And then I don't know if you want a double stack. I would probably just single stack, but you could do it with Kirk, Ingram, whoever you want. I do like the Lawrence stack a little bit. He's 6,500, but the two guys just right below him I do prefer better, and that would be Joe Burrow and Matthew Stafford. So Bengals looked a lot better. Burrow moved a lot better this past week. He had a nice little run that he has not been able to do the last couple of weeks with his calf injury. So I do like Burrow. Chase was phenomenal last week. If you played DFS, you needed Jamar Chase in that main slate. I believe he put up over 50 points of DK points. So he was huge. I would have no problem going right back to him. Seattle's secondary, they look good against the Giants, but most teams do. They like to play a zone. They play a lot of zone D, and I think Chase is just going to be able to tear that apart. So I do like the Burrow-Chase connection. I would just probably single stack it with Chase because he just got the majority. He set the Bengals record for most receptions in a game. I think he had 15. He may have had 16. I kind of lost track. But I don't mind if you want to throw Boyd in if Higgins is out as well. I wouldn't mess with any of the tight ends or the Crocodile Hunter, Trent Irwin either. So I would just do, if I'm doing Burrow, I would probably single stack him, and then I wouldn't mind running it back. Then we could run it back with a couple of the Seahawks with I like Walker against that Bengals run D, and then throw in Lockett and Metcalf as well. And then I do like Stafford. I think is going to be probably pretty popular. They are home against the Cardinals, and the Cardinals have just been letting quarterbacks do whatever against them. So I could see Stafford having a big game with Kupp being back healthy, Nakua there. Kyron Williams, the only issue that gives me a little bit of a pause because this could be one of those games that he gets like 20, 22 type like carries because the Rams are up. The good thing is like Stafford usually will throw an early pick six and keep the other team in the game, so they have to throw the ball a little bit more. But I do like the Stafford stack. That's another one that can be expensive. Stafford is only 6,100, but if you have Kupp, he's 9,000. Nakua is 8,000. And then if you want Higbee at $4,000. I think any Ram stack, Higbee is probably going to be super popular because it's a little salary saver, and then you can just pair him with either Nakua or Kupp. With Stafford, you could just do a single stack with either Kupp or Nakua. If you want to be really different, and you can make it work, and this will be the one I'll kind of go through because it's a good exercise, is if you do a Stafford, Kupp, Nakua stack, because you're using 17,000 of your 50 with two receivers. So I do like that one. The only thing is, it's the same thing with the Miami team. I do like Kyron Williams much better in this matchup. So I'm going to go on the Kyron Williams side. I don't mind if you want to pair Williams with Kupp or Nakua and do it that way, because I think that'll be a little bit more unique build if you're doing a Ram stack, doing Stafford, Williams, and then either Kupp or Nakua on that. So those are the 5 quarterbacks I like. They're all favorites. 4 of them, or no, they're not all favorites. Fields is a dog. But Cousins, that's away. But I do like that they all fit, except for that first game, the Bears Vikings game we talked about. All the other games are at 45 or more. The Bears Vikings is at 43.5, so it's close enough, and I think it's going to go over. So those are the ones that I like. I do like. I have a three max entry where I just went Cousins and then mixed in some other pieces with that. When it comes to running back, I talked about it earlier where I have a very very small pool I'm working with. The 3 guys I like the most, and they're all in this 64 to 68 100 range, is Alvin Kamara at 68, Kyron Williams at 65, and then Mostert at 64. Mostert against the Panthers. The Panthers are one of the worst run defenses in the league. And I think that's what I think the Dolphins are just going to rely on it. I think Hill's a little bit banged up. And again, it's one of those we've seen in the past, if the Dolphins get up early, which like they did against the Broncos, which I think they can against the Panthers, they have no problem just pounding the ball on the ground, not getting Tua in any kind of situation where he could take a rough hit. So I do like Mostert, especially Achan's out. Jeff Wilson is just coming back off injury, so I would imagine he's going to be limited in his touches. So I think it's going to be the Mostert show, and he could end up having 25, 30 touches by the time it's all said and done here. So I do like Mostert. He would be, if I had to lock one guy in every single one of my lineups, I think it would be Mostert on that. I do like Kyron Williams as well. He is the only guy in town that the Rams are using. So he is a true workhorse back so far this year. He gets a little bit done in the passing game as well. So I like that. They're in a good matchup against the Cardinals. Cardinals give up a ton of points. So I do like Kyron Williams as well. And then Kamara, they are going against Houston, and Houston is not good against the run, and especially against pass catching backs. So I think Kamara can get back. I don't think he's going to get another 13 receptions, but I think he only had 5 last week, so I could see him maybe getting closer to 8. I think they'll use him on the ground more as well. And it's another matchup. I think the Saints can win, but I think that it's one of those games I think can stay competitive. So no chance it could blow out, and they don't use Kamara that much. So those are the 3 running backs I like the most. I have no problem with Kenneth Walker at 6,700. The Bengals have not been great against the run. Walker's interesting because he seems to be pretty popular. And he usually is pretty solid, but then he will always bust off for one of these games where he could go for like 140 and 2 touchdowns. So this could be a spot for that. So I do like him. I do like Bijan. Bijan would be the highest I'd go. It's just so hard with McCaffrey. I know they're playing the Jets, but the Jets, the one weakness in the Jets defense is their run defense. But McCaffrey is so expensive. I believe he is over 9,000. Yeah, he's at 9,500. So he's the most expensive player on the slate. And it's just so hard to make builds around that. And he really, really, really has to pay off. And he's been good this year, but I don't think he's real. I think he had that one game, he had the 4 touchdowns. But other than that, he's got a touchdown every game, but he hasn't really, gone off for like the 30, 35, except for I don't think that just that one game, I think, that he did that. So it's just such a hard build with McCaffrey. He has been pretty consistent. He has 29, 25, 23, 51, and then last week was 14. So he is good, but it's just so hard to build a good quality team around him because of the price. So, but I don't mind Bijan. It's just the only issue is I believe Algier got 17 carries last week. I know the game script is a little bit different, but that's still concerning that Algier is there. They're just not letting Bijan be the guy. If you knew Bijan was going to be getting 20, 22 touches a game, then I think there would be no problems with that. And again, his passing usage, it's been pretty consistent. Last week was down a little bit. He's usually around 4 to 5 receptions a game. So it's just a little concerning that Algier is getting so much work. But I don't mind Bijan against the Commanders this week. And then the last 2, if you're going to go kind of cheap, if you really need a cheap play at the running back spot, I don't mind Deonta Foreman. He's pretty much going to be the only guy that Chicago's going to be using. I think they'll throw Evans in a little bit, but Foreman's he could get 22 plus touches on the ground. He's not utilizing the passing game. None of the Bears running backs that they're going to have rostered are much in the passing game. So they may have to use Foreman a little bit more. If you got 3 to 4 receptions out of Foreman, that would be huge. But I don't mind him because he's 4,400, and that will open up a lot more for you, especially if you want to use one of those more expensive stacks. But that's the only issue is if you use McCaffrey, a lot of people may pair him with Foreman. If you're going to go with a Eagles or Dolphins stack, that one's going to be more expensive. A lot of people may go to Foreman. So that's just the only thing you got to watch. But I don't mind him at all. And then I kind of think a sneak one would be DeAndre Swift. I think maybe people might be off of him just because his price. He's at 6,100. So I think a lot of people will probably go to Mostert, who's right there, but maybe Kyron Williams. And they may start thinking because of what the Eagles do when they get the ball at the goal line, it's Jalen Hurts all day, every day. But Swift, I think, can move and get a lot of room against this Jets defense. They're away, so I think the game can be close. That was the thing that happened when they were against the Commanders. They were expected to win big, and then the Commanders took them to overtime. So I don't mind Swift either, and they're all in good price ranges for running back. That's all the running backs I really, really like. But Mostert is the guy that I'm going to try to get the most exposure to. I'm going to go to tight ends next, and then I'll go to receivers, and then I'll finish up with defenses, and then kind of give you my strategy on how I usually run defenses. So tight end, again, it's going to be a really small pool for me on tight ends. Hawkinson is the most expensive since Kelsey is not on the slate, and neither is Andrews because they're playing in the London game. So I do like Hawkinson against the Bears, and with Jefferson out, I think he could see an additional 3 to 5 targets. I think this game can shoot out. It's going to be super high scoring. And I do like Hawkinson here, even if you're not using a Viking stack. I like Hawkinson too. I usually don't like to spend up at tight end unless it's Kelsey, but even then I don't, because he's usually in the 7,000 plus range. But I don't mind Hawkinson on this slate. A sneaky one could be George Kittle, because number one, he just went off for 3 touchdowns last week. So, and if you follow fantasy football, Kittle's one of those guys like a Mike Williams, where there's 3 to 4 games a year where he will just go off, and you need him in lineups or he'll win you a week. But then the rest of the season, he's just kind of average. So do you think he's going to go off for multiple touchdowns back-to-back weeks? Maybe. I like it because they're playing Cleveland, and Cleveland's really good against the wide receiver spot. They have really good cornerbacks, and they can get to the quarterback. So where their weakest is at the tight end spot over the middle. So I think this game can be sloppy too. I think the weather's going to be rainy. I do think the Niners will roll. Browns have PJ Walker starting, but I do like Kittle to have another decent week. I don't think he gets multiple touchdowns this week, but I wouldn't be surprised if he got a touchdown. And I could see him. This could be a 8+ target week for him. So I don't mind Kittle either. I don't think a lot of people will be on him, so he could be sneaky with some good upside. If you're doing the bear stack, then I don't mind Kmet. That's the only way I would use Kmet is in a bear stack. I would not use Kmet as a one-off. So in a bear stack, I would use Kmet and Moore. I think those would be the only 2 receivers I would use in a stack with the Bears. I talked about Higbee earlier. He's one, I think, if you're stacking the Rams, I don't mind throwing him in some lineups, but he's not one of my favorites. He may be probably my least favorite of all the tight ends that I'm going to talk about here. So I don't mind him, but I'm really more in a Ram stack. I think he might be popular just because that gets, in a Ram stack, because they can get you to Nakua or Kupp. 2 guys I like that are going to be a lot cheaper, that's going to open up some salary for you, is Zach Ertz at 3,600 and then Logan Thomas at 3,500. So I like them both in good matchups. I like, if you're doing a Ram stack, running it back with Ertz. He's seeing a lot of targets this year, and they're going to have to throw the ball, and with Connor being out. So I like Ertz just to get peppered with targets. He's a good red zone target as well. So I do like Ertz. He's one of my favorite tight ends this week, and he's only 3,600. And then Logan Thomas has been looking really, really good the last couple of weeks. Seems to be one of Hal's favorite targets. And again, they're playing the Falcons. The Falcons is actually better than you would think. But one of the spots that they can give up some is to the tight end spot. I think they're second or third this year so far in tight end points given up. So I don't mind Logan Thomas. He's probably going to get you almost 5 targets guaranteed. So I don't mind him, and then he's going to be 3,500. So the Ertz and Logan Thomas at tight end, I like, just because it's going to open up some more salary. But I don't mind if you're going to pay up at the Hawkinson. I like that as well, because I just like the environment he's in. If you're going wide receivers, Kupp, Chase, Nakua are the studs on the slate. It's 9,000 for Kupp, Chase at 8,300, Nakua 8,000. Tyreek Hill is the highest wide receiver at 9,300. Again, I have no problem going to Tyreek Hill. It's just I like the Mostert side of it better. And again, Tyreek, very expensive. So, you could save $300 to Kupp, and I think, Kupp's in a better spot. I do like, and Chase is a better spot. It's $1,000 less than Hill, and then Nakua's at $8,000. So I just like those 3 better than Hill, because you're saving a little bit of salary on that. If you're going to go try to find the the wide receiver that could break the slate. Chase did it last week. Again, do you think he can do it 2 weeks in a row? I think so. He's got that talent, especially if Higgins is not there. And Seattle's, I know they got a couple of their DBs back, but they'll probably have Witherspoon covering him, and Witherspoon is a rookie. He's a little bit undersized too. He's not as big as Chase. He's not one of those big, lanky cornerbacks like Gonzalez out of Oregon was this year. So I think Chase has got that matchup on him. And they like to play a lot of zone, and I think Chase can just find some spots in the zone and be good. So I do like him over Hill just because you're saving $1,000 and you have the same type of upside with Chase as you do with Hill. And then in that next tier, in the 6,000 to 7,000 range, three guys I like Calvin Ridley. I think he has a nice, he had that big first week and he's kind of been quiet the rest of the year. So I think against the Colts, I think that could be a sneaky game that could be in the 50 total points with those two teams. Even with Minshew, I think Minshew, he's going back to Jacksonville, so revenge narrative for those of you that believe that. So I think he's used to the field. I think both these teams can move the ball, so I like the game environment. So I think Ridley can have a nice game this week. I do like DJ Moore. I know, again, some people don't like to play players the week following where they go off, which I understand that, but it is football and anything happens. If they're in good matchups, I have no problem going back to a guy that just had a 3-touchdown game. I don't expect him to have another 3-touchdown game, but he's in a good environment. It looks like Fields and that offense is now really trying to go through him. So if he's going to get 10, 11 targets in a high scoring environment, like I have no problem going back to him, like more at 6,500. And then I do like Garrett Wilson. He could be another sneaky one because you just don't want to trust Zach Wilson. But the Eagles, they can be had in the passing game, and Wilson's got enough talent to do so. I think the Eagles will be up, and I think Wilson will have to pass. And I think the Eagles are really going to probably focus all their attention to stop Breece Hall. They will definitely have 8 in the box. So I think Wilson could have some one-on-ones. He's talented enough, and I think he can get peppered with enough targets that he could be a sneaky one that I don't think a lot of people will be on because they're playing the Eagles. So those are the kind of the top 6 that I like in the higher end. You can find some value in wide receiver. That's why I don't mind going to the running backs I have and don't have to feel like you have to go to Deonta Foreman at running backs. There's some good value, I think, in the wide receiver. And the game that you can get the good wide receiver, no matter what stack you do, if you go away from the Minnesota stack, and even the Bears game, let's say you just decide you don't want to stack that game, I would still try to grab somebody on the Viking side, either Hawkinson or one of these 3 receivers. You got Addison, who it looks like he's off the Q tag. He's at 5,700. You got KJ Osborne at 4,400. And then the one value I really like is Brandon Powell. He had 5 or 6 receptions this past week after Jefferson went out. He had 4 receptions. He had 6 targets. So he was involved. He had 63 yards. So I like all of them. And I would try to get a Viking pass catcher in all of your lineups, and you can just switch through around those. But all 3 of those guys are reasonably priced, and it's going to be in a good environment. It's just one of those things where I don't know if just one of these guys goes off or it's just going to get spread out and they're just all going to be average. But if you can get at $3,000, Brandon Powell, 50 yards and a touchdown on 4 catches, you're talking that's 15 points on a $3,000 guy. So that will pay off big time for you there. Another one I like, it's at 5,500 is Terry McLaurin. I just think he's just underpriced. I think for his talent in a game where I think that Atlanta-Washington game could be sneaky high scoring. So I think McLaurin could just kind of go under the radar because I don't think people are going to, I think people will probably lean more towards playing Logan Thomas at tight end to save salary and then go elsewhere for wide receiver. So, because I think they think Atlanta likes to run the ball, they're just going to slow things down and just do that, which they do. But I think McLaurin has some value at 5,500, especially if he's going to be really low owned. On the other side of that game is Drake London at 4,800. He had a pretty big game last week. The last 2 weeks, he's actually put up some decent fantasy. So he seems to be getting back because he started off, he was out that first week. Then he had almost 19 week one because he scored a touchdown. He had 5 the third week. And then the last 2 weeks, he's got 12 and 15. So the one game he had 12. It was a 3-catch, 28-yard, but he found the end zone. So he could be one as well. Like we just saw DJ Moore go off against this Commanders secondary. So I think London has that kind of talent that he can break away, make some big plays. So at 4,800, I don't mind him. Again, Tyler Boyd, who was not a big factor last week because when you throw the ball to Jamar Chase every single time, he had 19 targets last week. So on the year, like he's got 60 targets so far this year. He's like the last 3 games, he's had 19, 9, and 15. So they are trying to get him the ball, which they should. He's Jamar Chase. So I don't mind Boyd if they try to do something in Seattle to double team, bring a safety over. I don't mind Boyd if you want to save some money, or in a Bengal stack with Chase. And then another guy that it's probably the lowest I'd go wide receiver wise is at 4,100 is Josh Downs for the Colts. Again, I think the Colts are going to be down. I think they'll have to pass. He had some good rapport with Minshew last week, so I don't mind him at all. He can get down the field. So those are the guys I kind of like wide receiver wise. When it comes to defense, here's the rule with defense. Don't spend up on defense. Defense is mostly a crapshoot. I wish they would just take defenses off these slates and just throw kickers in. I would just rather see kickers because I think it's not as volatile. And defense, you just happen to get lucky. If you happen to grab the Saints last week, it worked out for you. You got that one year when the Patriots were scoring a touchdown every single week. If you had Dallas 2 of the first 3 weeks, you can't predict really defensive touchdowns. So it's kind of hard. So the Niners, while they are in a good spot, if you can get to the Niners against PJ Walker, I don't mind that play, but they are $4,000. So, but I would rather go save money at defense to try to get skill players that have a higher upside than a defense. So, I would just like to keep my defenses under 3,000. So there are 3 plays I like. I don't mind the Bengals. I think people may be off them because a couple weeks ago they did not look great. They weren't bad against the Cardinals this past week, but the Bengals are a good defense. They are at home. I do prefer, if I can, to get defenses at home just because I think the home defenses will play better with the crowd, that kind of stuff. So I don't mind the Bengals, but I think my favorite is the Lions at 2,700. The Lions defense is sneaky good, and they can get to the quarterback, and that's the other thing. You get touchdown. If you get a defense touchdown, that's huge, but sacks and interceptions are the big ones, and with Aiden Hutchinson there, that Lions front 4 kind of wreaks some havoc. So they're at 2,700. I do not mind them at all. And they are playing Tampa Bay, who is the other defense I don't mind because they are just 2,300. I know they're playing the Lions, but the Bucs are home. They had just come off a bye. And if you look at what the Bucs defense has done this year, they have scored 13, 5, 17, and 9. So if you're getting 9+ points on a defense, that's kind of what you want. You just, you're not going to expect to get 20. So I don't mind that. Just save money and just hope they can get you positive points, and then fill out the rest of your lineup, like I said, with studs. So that's what I like. So I told you we would do a lineup real quick. So I've kind of played around with this. So let's just look at a Ram stack. So you're looking at Stafford at quarterback, 6,100. And to be different, because I don't think a lot of people will do this, is pair him with Kupp and Nakua. Because I think the preferred build, what you'll see a lot with Stafford is I think you will see it double stacked, and it'll be either Kupp or Nakua, and it'll be paired with either Higbee or Kyren Williams. So this one, I'm just going to kind of say I'm going to go off Kyren Williams and say I think the passing game is going to be what gets it done against the Cardinals this week. So I'm going to pair a $9,000 and $8,000 receiver, which is kind of crazy because it just leaves you with a little over $4,400 per player. So I told you I like Mostert, so I'm going to just lock Mostert in. And then I am going to put Kamara in as well. So at 6,800, depending on how this looks, I may throw Swift in because it's going to save me 700, but we'll just throw Kamara in right now. I'm at 34.25 left. With defense, I am going to do... I think I'm going to do the Lions at 27. So it does, leaves me 36. Tight end. Since I am doing a Ram stack, I'm going to run it back on the other side with Zach Ertz. That leaves me 3,700 per player. I told you I need to get one of these Minnesota wide receivers. In this build, I am going to go Brandon Powell and hope he finds the end zone at $3,000. Again, if he can get you 12 to 15 points, that's a huge win because that's about a five times return. That leaves me $4,400 for my flex position. I could go down to Foreman. I probably won't. I just don't think he has that 30-point upside this week. I could go a double Minnesota with Osborne as well, but doing this before, the one guy I kind of like at 4,100 is Josh Downs. Leaves me $3,000 spare. Now, if I ended up going with the Bucks defense at 23, I still, if he keep Powell there, then that gets me at 4,800, and it could get me to Drake London. So that could be something that I look at as well. So that's just kind of like how you're doing your builds on that. A couple, like I said, what if you want to look at, and then I'll wrap this up here. A couple that I have that I had a Cousins stack. That was my Stafford stack. So a Cousins stack had Cousins, Powell, and Hawkinson as stack. My running backs were Mostert. I went Kyren Williams with this one. Run the Cousins stack back with DJ Moore. Have Drake London as my other receiver. Have Kamara in the flex, and then had the Bucks as my defense. That used all the salary. I always like leaving a little bit of salary just because it seems to, give you a little bit of more uniqueness. And then another one, I went the opposite side. I went Justin Fields. I just paired him with DJ Moore only. And then I ran it back with two Vikings, which is a little bit different. I think most people will just try to do a one-player run back on your stack. I like this game, so I decided to get 4 of my spots taken with this game. So I have Powell and Hawkinson again. I just like Powell's value at $3,000. Especially I thought, when I was making this, that Addison may miss. So I may switch that up a little bit, but I still like it. And then Kamara, Mostert, running backs. I got Tyler Boyd as my third wide receiver spot, and then I got Kyren Williams as my flex in that one. That one I'm not too thrilled with that build. I just did one here that I'll probably change a little bit. I did a little bit different. Is I just see what would happen if I did a Uncle Rico Gardner Minshew stack. So, because he's only $5,000. So I did Minshew at quarterback, paired him with Downs and Pittman. I got Mostert and Kyron Williams in my running back. Got Ridley as the run back. And then I got Zach Ertz at tight end, Jamar Chase in the flex, and then the Bucs defense. It left me $800. So I could move up on the defense if I wanted to get the Lions, or if I wanted to put $800 somewhere else, I could get to Bijan over Kyron Williams if I wanted to, those types of things. So just something to look at. I will probably not keep that Minshew stack. I just threw it in just to see what it would look like. So that's what the slate looks like this week for the main slate. I hope this was informative for you. I will try to keep doing some of these DFS plays. Sometimes maybe get Jeff on here as well, run it back. But these things usually last like 45 minutes. And I think if we had banter back and forth, we'd be looking at like an hour and a half. So I may just try to keep doing these solo on you. I think Jeff and I are going to try to get another one out tomorrow as well. We'll try to get one done in the morning. So thanks for watching, listening, or however you are consuming the product. We appreciate you checking us out. Have a great weekend.